Hello, I'm Darren Magee. Today's topic isn't so much a direct question that's been asked on my channel, but it is a recurring theme on some of the questions and some of the comments that come up in the videos that I make. It's also a recurring theme that comes up in the therapy room, and if I'm going to be honest, it comes up in my own personal therapy as well. And that is, whenever we're faced with something difficult, something painful, the question we tend to ask is, how do I best avoid this? What gets me out of this? How do I avoid the pain? How do I avoid the fear? What is the easiest option? How do I do what I have to do without the cost, without the what could be potentially painful consequences? So just to remind you, this video is not a substitute for support from a mental health professional, but I do hope it encourages someone to maybe seek out help to deal with some of those fears that hold us back from being the best version of ourselves, from doing the things that are our own best interest. Now, there are times when we are faced with things that really aren't in our own best interest. They may be painful, difficult, dangerous even. They may cost us far too much. There may be situations that you know are going to cause a lot of pain and trouble. There may be people out there that you know are toxic. Now, if possible, and when we can, maybe it is best to steer well clear of those situations and those people. People who don't want the best for you, who want to keep you in a state of strain and distress, who don't want you to meet your full potential and will do what they can to sabotage you. There can be a fear over perhaps how they would react if you were to leave them behind or if you were to call them out. So yes, there are some times when the best course of action is avoidance. However, there are other times. Do you ever notice we tend to put off things hoping they're going to change, hoping they're going to get better, hoping it'll just get better by itself? Do you ever notice, for example, there's no such thing as a good time for a difficult conversation? It's the sort of thing we put off continually. We maybe don't stand up for ourselves to that bully at work in case it gets worse. We don't just call out or cut off that parent, that sibling, or that partner that's sucking all the joy and happiness out of our lives. We don't remove ourselves from a depressive or an anxiety-inducing situation because we just feel too uncertain. Well, during the lockdown, I'd been watching probably far too many documentaries. One of the documentaries I watched was yet another one about the Titanic, and as I was watching it, something struck me, okay? Something just came to me. Now, you probably guessed from my accent that I come from the city where the Titanic was built, so we do have a fascination and a sense of pride around the Titanic. But as I was watching this, what I was thinking was, when the ship was built, they claimed it was unsinkable. Now, history has shown that it wasn't. A more accurate description would have been that it was designed to be very difficult to sink. Okay, so bear that in mind as I'm telling you this. What you had was this very large ship going very fast in the dead of night. Now, out of nowhere, right in front of them, to see this iceberg, and the first thing they did was probably the sensible thing. They kicked the engines into reverse and then they turned the rudder to try to miss it. Now, this is a really big ship with a small rudder, so it can't actually turn like a speedboat. Instead, it started to drift. It couldn't slow down in time, and it started to drift as it was turning, and it ended up hitting the iceberg. But it didn't just hit the iceberg and punch a hole in it. The iceberg actually tore a series of holes along the hull below the waterline. So what happened was, the ship was designed into compartments, okay? So the front compartment flooded, so did the second one, and so did the third. The weight of that pulled it down, which meant the fourth one flooded, which pulled it down even further, which meant the fifth one flooded, and on it went, and the rest is history. Now, according to the people in this documentary, had they just done what the ship was designed to do, it was designed to survive collisions. If they'd have put the engines into reverse, yes, it would have slowed it down a bit, lessened the impact. But the front of the ship would have hit the iceberg, and the front of the ship would have been mangled. Now, the consequences of that would have been, you would have had a company that would have lost millions in shares. You would have had a company that was going to be sued by pretty much anybody who could spell Titanic. You would have had Senior members of the crew, severely disciplined, severely chastised, and probably never allowed to work in those kind of positions ever again. You would have had 1,500 passengers being put to the inconvenience of being put on the other ships and taken on to New York. The Titanic itself would have been towed back, probably to Belfast, to be repaired, but it would have sailed again. Now, the consequences of it hitting the iceberg would have been awful, but everybody would have lived. And what came to me as I was watching this and as I was listening to this was, how many times have we tried to avoid something? And the more we've tried to avoid it, the very things that we're doing to avoid it are the very things that make it worse, the very things that keep it going. Or do you know what? They're the very things that sink us. Hitting the iceberg would have been painful, it would have been difficult, it would have been catastrophic, but not as bad as sinking, and everybody would have lived. Hitting that iceberg sometimes means having to have that difficult conversation. Sometimes it means having to cut out those difficult people from our lives. Sometimes it means having to aim a little higher. It may be in our best interest to leave people who are continually wanting us to fail. We may have to leave that job that's asking far too much and not giving a lot back. We may have to stop giving to something or someone that's just taking, demanding more and more and reciprocating nothing. The thought of confronting that difficult person, the thought of starting something new, the thought of asserting ourselves, making any kind of change can be difficult. It can be painful. We may lose someone. We may lose some people. We may lose their regard. We may even sound selfish. We may have to go through an awful time. And I think a lot of times that's what it is we're trying to avoid. We fear losing the money. We fear losing the security. We fear losing a lot of different things. We may even remember a time where we perhaps did try to do something in our own best interest, or we did try to assert ourselves and it didn't go so well. So we don't want it to be as bad as last time. I often think that, again, that's what we're trying to avoid. It's not going to be as painful as last time. But again, how many times has it actually got worse, or just avoiding it has kept it going? Now, to paraphrase my favourite Time Lord, sometimes the only choices we have are difficult ones, but sometimes that is better than no choice at all. Now, if you see that iceberg far enough away and you can avoid it, so much the better. But there are other times we just have to choose the least worst option. Now, as painful and as difficult as it can be, sometimes the option we need to choose is the one that we're going to thank ourselves for later on. Now, I'm no fan of that old expression, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. But I do think it can make us a little braver. It can make us a little more courageous. It can help us to develop a resilience to things like failing and give us the courage to maybe try different things. And that alone can sometimes help us get that little bit closer to where we need to be, where we would like to be, where we want to be. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you just go ahead and do something reckless or rash. But maybe little pieces at a time, build up your courage, build up your willingness to try, spend time with those who do have your best interest at heart, who do want you to succeed and will support you. Talking to a therapist can help you to understand your fears and help you to explore alternatives and become a little more assertive. Talking to a life coach can help you to develop and draw on your resources, your skill set and your support network. I know this isn't my normal kind of topic of video for this channel, but I do hope there's been something here for you to think about. If you find this helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.